Okay, so buckle up, because this deep dive is going to be a wild one. We're ditching the stand-up stage and diving deep into some seriously thought-provoking stuff. History, ancient civilizations, mysteries of the universe, all through the lens of, get this, Katt Williams.
Yeah, and what's amazing is this isn't just some, passing interest for him. We're talking about a lifelong passion for knowledge here. This is Katt cracking open books, not just jokes.
No kidding. You really get a glimpse of how his mind works in this conversation with Joe Rogan.
Mhm.
He even talks about how, from a young age, reading wasn't just a hobby, it was his life.
Totally. He devoured everything classic literature, encyclopedias, you name it. But here's the thing. Katt wasn't just passively absorbing information. He was like wrestling with it.
Yeah.
Imagine this. 4 books open at once, cross-referencing, chasing down every little detail. That's Katt's style.
It's like he was building his own mental encyclopedia, right? But instead of just listing facts, he was connecting the dots. And one of those big, bold connections he makes is with ancient cultures and their depictions of, wait for it, extraterrestrial contact.
And not just friendly visits either. Katt's talking about advanced technology, knowledge that just doesn't fit with how we usually understand history. Like, he brings up the Dogon tribe in Africa. They had all this detailed knowledge about Sirius B that's a companion star to Sirius, way before modern astronomy even knew it existed.
Okay, hold up. For those of us who aren't like astronomy buffs, what's the big deal with Sirius B?
Well, Sirius B is what's called a white dwarf star. It's incredibly faint, super hard to see from Earth, even with telescopes. But the Dogon, they had this surprisingly accurate knowledge about its elliptical orbit, its orbital period, even its density. And they claim they got this knowledge from beings that they called the Nomo, beings they describe as amphibious, from the Sirius system.
Okay, now that is seriously intriguing. It makes you wonder, what else is out there that we've dismissed as just myth or legend?
It is.
And speaking of things that kind of defy conventional explanation, we got to talk about Katt's views on the pyramids. He's not buying the whole primitive tools and brute force explanation, not for a second.
Right. He's much more interested in the how that's been conveniently left out of the history books. Katt sees the pyramids as these sources of immense power, maybe even harnessing forces we're just starting to wrap our heads around today.
It's like he's suggesting they were ancient power plants or something, right?
Exactly. The precision engineering, the astronomical alignments, the sheer scale of these structures, it screams high technology, not copper chisels and ramps. He even questions the whole idea that they were built on sand. Like, would you build something meant to last for millennia on such an unstable foundation? It makes you think maybe the environment, the whole landscape, was drastically different back then.
Mind-blowing, right. It's like he's challenging us to look beyond what we think we know, to consider possibilities that might seem out there at first glance.
Absolutely. And this kind of skepticism toward conventional explanations, it extends to his views on information control, too. Katt is convinced that governments, powerful organizations, they're actively withholding knowledge, especially when it comes to things like Area 51 and the possibility of, recovered alien technology.
He even comes right out and says, they're doing something, they're just not telling us. And honestly, these days, with all the secrecy and misinformation flying around, who can blame him for feeling that way?
It taps into this very real anxiety people have about transparency, about who controls the flow of information. But for Katt, this isn't just some abstract paranoia. It's directly connected to this idea of suppressed knowledge about our true history, our origins, maybe even our place in the cosmos.
So you're saying for Katt, it's all connected, the ancient mysteries, the advanced technology, the information control, it all points to the much bigger picture that we're just starting to glimpse.
Exactly. And it's a picture that, if Katt's right, has some major implications for how we understand ourselves, our history, our future.
It's kind of wild how Katt can jump from ancient aliens to, like, government conspiracies. Like, it's nothing. It's like he sees them all as part of this, like, one big puzzle.
It's true. And that's what makes his perspective so interesting, right? It's like he's weaving together history and science and myth and even pop culture to create this picture of reality that's way more complex and mysterious than we tend to think about.
And this really comes through in his whole thing about the pyramids. He just keeps circling back to this idea that they weren't just tombs. Like, he really seems to believe they were some kind of advanced technology.
He even suggests they might have been energy generators, powered by underground hot water springs.
Hold on, hot water springs.
Right. Now, before we write this off as too out there, remember, Katt's a serious researcher. He's not just making stuff up. He's pulling from geological surveys, historical accounts, scientific principles to back up his claims.
He's like a detective, right? Piecing together these clues from across time. And one of the most intriguing clues, for Katt at least, seems to be these things called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Oh yeah, the Emerald Tablets. Now we're going down a real rabbit hole. Legend has it they were written by Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god of wisdom. They supposedly hold this deep knowledge about like alchemy, cosmology, the nature of reality, all that.
And Katt believes these tablets actually mention a spaceship on Earth. He even suggests Thoth himself might have been an extraterrestrial being. I don't know about all that, but it's definitely a wild thought.
The point isn't necessarily whether every detail is literally true. It's about what it tells us about how Katt sees the world. He's drawn to these ancient texts, these echoes of the past, because they hint at something bigger than us, something beyond what we currently understand.
Like maybe we weren't the first advanced civilization on Earth. Maybe we were visited, influenced, even guided by beings with like way more advanced tech and knowledge.
Exactly. And he sees evidence of this not just in old texts, but in archaeology too, like
Right.
the crazy accurate astronomical knowledge of ancient cultures. How else would they know about the rings of Saturn or the color of Mars without telescopes?
And of course, he brings up the Dogon tribe again, as if to say, see, I told you. It really makes you wonder just how much of our history has been shaped by forces we're just beginning to understand.
It's a humbling thought for sure. Maybe we're not at the peak of knowledge and civilization. Maybe we're just a small part of a much bigger, older, stranger story than we ever imagined.
So let's just say, hypothetically, that Katt's onto something with all this. What then? What do we do with that information?
Million-dollar question, right? And for Katt, it seems like the answer lies in staying curious, questioning everything, being active seekers of knowledge, not just passive consumers of whatever we're told.
He seems really distrustful of authority, especially when it comes to who controls information. Like that whole thing about Area 51, he's convinced something big is being hidden there. And I mean, can you blame him? So much secrecy, so much we just don't know.
That skepticism, that willingness to look beyond the surface, it's what fuels him. He's not content to just accept the official story. He's digging deeper, looking for hidden connections, the stuff that's been buried, to try to unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves, and our place in all of this.
We've gone deep on ancient mysteries, government secrets, all of that. But now Katt takes us somewhere even wilder, the future. And it might be more unsettling than anything we've heard about the past.
Yeah, he sees this strong link between how information is controlled today and, get this, the mark of the beast from the Bible.
Wait, really? The mark of the beast, like from Revelation?
Yep. But we're not talking about some mystical symbol here. Cat gives it a modern twist, and it's kind of creepy.
Okay, now I gotta know. What's he talking about?
Technology. Specifically those brain-computer interfaces like Elon Musk's Neuralink.
Neuralink. What's the connection?
Remember how Cat's suspicious of anything that promises better, better, better without thinking about the downsides? That's Neuralink for him. He sees it as a gateway, a way for technology to not just enhance our lives, but to control them.
You mean like literally control our minds?
Yeah, it's like in those vampire movies. They can't come in unless you invite them in. He thinks we might be doing that with Neuralink, inviting it into our minds without really getting the long-term consequences.
So we're not just talking about like the government reading our thoughts, Big Brother style.
Not just that. He's worried about something even trippier. Imagine a future where corporations, algorithms, even each other, can mess with our desires, our emotions, our sense of self, all through technology.
So we wouldn't even know we were being controlled. Our thoughts, our actions, all influenced by something outside of us. Okay, now that is a scary thought.
It's a valid concern, especially with how fast technology is moving these days. Think about it, cell phones, the internet, they started as luxuries, right? Now they're practically essential, like extensions of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not hard to imagine brain-computer interfaces going the same way.
It makes you wonder, what does it even mean to be human when the line between us and machines gets blurry like that?
That's a big one, right? Philosophers have been debating that for ages. And now, with technology, it's not just a theoretical debate anymore. It's getting real.
So are we doomed? Is that what Katt's saying?
Not necessarily. He also talks about how everything's connected, like there's this bigger design. That gives him hope, even with all the potential threats.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Right. And it's those connections, those weird little synchronicities that make Katt's view so unique. Ancient rituals, natural phenomena. He even brings up mushrooms and the Smurfs, all pointing to some deeper meaning behind everything.
He's got this way of taking things that seem totally random and making you see how they fit together. Like he's saying, don't just scratch the surface, man. Look deeper, question everything, and you'll find connections you never expected.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting. It's not about buying into every single thing Katt says. It's about being challenged, being open to the possibility that there's way more to this world, to the universe, than we realize.
He's reminding us that, in a way, we're all explorers. We're all searching for truth. So whether you're staring at the stars, geeking out over the latest tech, or even just watching some cartoons, remember, ask questions, dig deeper, and never stop exploring. You never know what you might find.
That's what it's all about, right? The mystery keeps us going, keeps us learning. That's what makes life so fascinating.
And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive into the mind of Katt Williams. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going.